All right, well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to Module 6, Lesson number 2. So in Lesson number 2, we're going to be focusing on the percentage of ownership and how to structure that. That's one of the biggest questions I get asked when I'm hosting events is, how much should I keep and how much should I give away? Well, let's say that you now have a deal and you've got a partner that you want to do a deal with. Now what do you do? What ownership structure are you going to use? How much equity will you actually retain and how much are you going to give away? How are you going to split the cash flow? Who is going to be responsible for the day-to-day activities? How will the cash call be handled? Cash call meaning that all of a sudden there's a $2,000 repair that needs to be done. Where's that $2,000 going to come from? How and when will you sell the property when it comes time? And what if somebody wants out early, either yourself or your partner? All right, so let's take a look at all of this. So typically, your investor is going to be somebody from close by, your family or friends. It could also be a co-worker, or it could also be fellow investors. Individuals who understand the value of investing in real estate but are too busy. So your doctors, your dentists, your chiropractors, these high-income earners, they are all looking for places to invest their money. And they just don't have the time and energy to go out and research real estate, learn how to do it, and then on top of that, take care of all the real estate transactions and management after the fact. So these are the type of people that are going to be your investors. So what are they actually investing in? So most people believe that they're investing in a piece of real estate, whether it be a triplex is the opportunity, it could be a single family home. Whatever the deal is, it doesn't really matter. That's what your friends or family or colleagues are going to be investing in. At least that's what most people think. The reality is they're not investing in that piece of real estate. They're actually investing in you, the individual. The real estate is a piece of security. The investment is in you. The real estate's the security. So why are they going to invest with you? Well, people will invest with you because they know you, they like you, and they trust you. They believe that you are fair and ethical, that you are knowledgeable, and they have or you have created a relationship with them, and you take the time to educate them, assuming they want to be educated, with all the different profit centers in real estate. So what this is going to do is instill confidence with them. Now, if you're not fair and ethical, then your investing career is going to be short-lived or very restricted. These are the things that you need to be in order to attract investors to you. You need to be knowledgeable, fair, ethical, likable. All of these things you need to have. So how should you actually structure the deal then? So you've got somebody, as I said earlier, you've got somebody who's interested in investing with you. And again, keeping in mind they're investing with you because they know you, they like you, they trust you, they believe that you know what you're doing. So is it going to be a 50-50 deal where you keep 50% of the transaction and you give 50% of the transaction to the other individual? This is what most people believe is a fair structure. Now, the question is, fair is in the eye of the beholder or the mind of the investor. So you need to be aware of what the investor is thinking in this particular case. So if this is your first transaction, your first or second transaction, you're just getting started in this, you have to ask yourself, who is actually taking the risk here? You or the investor? So again, there's many different scenarios out there, and I'm just going to propose one. And this is a very typical scenario as well. So you've gone out and you've taken some real estate education courses. You've been looking for deals. You believe that you know everything you need to know in order to get started. The challenge is you don't have the cash. So you find your investor. The investor is going to provide the cash. So you provide the deal. You do all the work. You manage the property. That's what you're bringing to the table. And the investor's bringing the cash. And you split it 50-50. Now that is a very fair split. That's a very common split as well. And there's nothing wrong with that split. Except you have to ask yourself, again, if you are a new investor here, if you've just got the courses, you haven't actually done any deals. If you're taking money from a potential investor to invest in the deal, who's actually taking the risk? I would suggest that it's the investor who's handing the money over is taking the risk, because you have not got a proven track record yet. You have no deals under your belt. So perhaps you should consider a different split. Perhaps you should consider doing a 40-60 or a 30-70 split, where you give a bigger percentage to the investor. You might even go one step further, especially if this is your absolute first deal. And what you want to do is you want to create that level of trust with your investor. You need to get the experience. You need to get that track record, so that when you go out and do this again with another investor, you can say, well, in my past investment, this is how the transaction went. You wouldn't necessarily say how you structured the deal from a percentage perspective, but you can say now that you've already done one deal, your investor is extremely happy, and you're now looking to do your second deal. So for your very first deal, you may even want to consider doing a 5%, 95%. This way, you're going to gain that knowledge, you're going to gain the experience, you're going to gain the trust. The investor that you're doing the deal with is going to think that you just rock, and they're going to give you all kinds of testimonials, and they will most likely want to invest with you again and again. Now, obviously, they're not going to get the 95%. And what you have to do is you have to prove your value, prove your worth, and that's what you do. You start off small at 5% or whatever. You can negotiate that you feel is fair, but more importantly, what the investor feels is fair. You always make sure that the investor's needs are taken care of first and always. So ask the investor what their expectations are. Now, what I have determined over the years is that for most investors, on a cash-on-cash return, in today's economy with today's rates, they would be happy with a 5% cash-on-cash return, simply because they can't put their money anywhere else. If they were to put it in a guaranteed investment certificate in a bank, they're going to get maybe 2%. If they put it in their mutual fund account, well, if they just hand it over to a mutual fund manager, they're most likely going to be getting 0 to 2 or 3%, but there's no guarantees. It goes up and down, it fluctuates. And we all know that the big winner in the mutual fund market are the mutual fund managers, because they get paid off the top first. So they know that their cash-on-cash returns are already low, so they've got realistic expectations of 5%. Now, they might be very happy with a 10 to 15% combined return based upon the cash flow, appreciation, and principal paydown. And the reality is, giving them a 10 to 15% return on the cash flow, appreciation, principal paydown is very easy to achieve. Even if you've got a 3% appreciation in the market and you're doing a 20% down, that alone translates into a 15% return on investment. But these individuals do not realize that. The investors do not understand the power of compounding when it comes to appreciation. And you don't bother explaining that because that gets too complicated. So the fact that they're happy with a 10 to 15% combined return based upon the cash flow, appreciation, and principal paydown is good. So, how should you structure the deal? Well, first of all, you need to build or create some experience, the trust, and the track record. And that's why I strongly urge you to consider doing not necessarily the 5%, 95%. That's a bit extreme. But, I mean, you could easily do a 20%, 80%, still make some money. And you can even negotiate where you do an 80-20% on the equity ownership, and you do a 50-50 on the cash flow. Or you could do a 20-80 on the equity and an 80-20 on the cash flow. Because not all investors, especially the high income earners, need or want the cash flow. They're more interested in protecting their money and building their equity. So every deal is going to be unique and different. Always under-promise and over-deliver. Never, ever, ever guarantee a return. And you always explain the risk or the potential risks. Because a lot of people are going to be ill-informed by other people that real estate is really, really risky. Especially the the money managers and the bank managers are going to say that real estate is extremely risky because they want you to take the money and invest it in the mutual funds where the banks and the investment companies make mega dollars. So by investing in real estate, you're taking profits away from them. So of course they're going to say that real estate is risky. You always explain the good and the bad. You have complete full disclosure. You walk through all the different scenarios. And you also recommend that they speak with their lawyer. Now, you just don't send them off to the lawyer blindly, however. What you want to do is you want to explain to them what the lawyer's concerns are going to be, keeping in mind that the lawyer's job is to protect the interest of their client. That's supposed to be their primary job. Their secondary job is to protect their own interests so that they minimize any potential litigation against themselves, because the last thing that the lawyer wants to do is suggest that they get into a particular real estate deal. The deal goes wrong. The client comes back and sues the lawyer for malpractice. So that's a huge concern for many lawyers out there. And as a result, they are extra cautious, and rightly so. They should be extra cautious. However, your investor needs to understand where the lawyer is coming from. So if you can answer, or actually if you can educate your investor and let them know these are the questions, these are the concerns, and these are going to be the responses that the lawyers are going to give you, then what's going to happen is when they come back to you, they say, you were absolutely right. And then it's up to the investor to determine whether they feel comfortable moving forward or not. However, in what I have discovered is that when they come back from the visit to the lawyer, they're even more comfortable with me because I provided them full disclosure and told them exactly what the lawyer was going to say and why they were going to say it. You would like to share past deals if you have past deals to share. If you don't have any past deals and you have a mentor or somebody else that you can share their deals, just to explain how the whole process works. If this is your very first deal, do not BS your investor. Do not try and make it look like you've done many, many deals. Be upfront and be honest, because this will come back and bite you in the butt if you try and BS your guy. Explain how you analyze a deal. Now, keep in mind, if you are an analytical type, do not go over the top. Do not show them all kinds of spreadsheets and whatnot, because most people are not analytical. Most people want it just the simple bare numbers. So use the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. And just provide them enough information to make them feel comfortable, but don't overwhelm them. So you may show them what an analyzer looks like, but don't go through the whole analysis process with them. Explain how the financing is going to work, how they have to apply for the mortgage, and the time periods, how much paperwork, when they have to go to the lawyer. Explain the deal structure itself. Explain and perhaps even show them an example of what a co-tenancy agreement is going to look like. And the co-tenancy agreement is going to lay out the relationship between you and the investor, who's responsible for what, who gets paid, how they get paid, cash calls. All of those things are going to be dealt with inside that co-tenancy agreement. It's what I like to call a what-if agreement. So both sides of the transaction, or all parties involved, will write out a list of, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? Go through all of these what ifs and answer those within the body of a co-tenancy agreement. Answer all the questions you know they're going to ask. So put yourself in their position. If you were being approached by a potential real estate investor who's pitching an opportunity to you, what questions are you going to have for this real estate investor? Answer all of those questions in your presentation and make sure that the investor has an opportunity to ask further questions, but just make sure that no rock is left unturned and they feel very, very comfortable. Allow time to process. So most likely these investors have never been involved in such a deal before. They're accustomed to taking their money to the banks or to their investment manager and just handing the check over and sitting with somebody and being brainwashed to invest in the mutual funds in the past. So you need to be aware of that. You need to also be aware that they're going to be told by many people that real estate is risky, and you have to just ask the question or make sure they understand who has been telling them that real estate is risky. Is this a past investor who didn't know what they were doing and they got stuck in a bad investment opportunity? Or is it just somebody who's heard this through a friend or a family member or saw it on TV that real estate is risky? What you're doing is you're simply planting seeds of thought so that these seeds of thought will simply be nurtured and they will grow over time so that they will grow into opportunities down the road. You never want to push a person to invest. That's the last thing you want to do, because when a person feels pressured, their immediate reaction is to resist and push back. So you never ask for money when you need it. You're always looking for money before the deal and the opportunity presents itself. Keeping in mind that you're going to educate and present opportunities to 10 people. Out of those 10 people, 5 might show an interest, 2 might end up being solid investment opportunities for you. So when should you ask for the investment? Before you have the deal. As I say, you approach 10, work with 4 or 6, and 1 or 3 will become serious potential investors for you. You walk through the entire deal proposal and let them look at it and decide whether it's for them or not. Create some urgency, but no pressure. So, for example, you may already have a deal in place that you've done with somebody else. You can take that deal and you can use that as a presentation to a new and potential investor and say, this is what I'm looking for. And when it starts to get serious and they're deciding to jump into the deal, you can say, well, hang on, I have to be honest with you. This deal has now been satisfied. I have an investor for it. However, I have more deals like this come my way all the time. So if you're interested, let's work together on the next deal. So that's sort of the takeaway. Now you've built up the excitement. They're interested. They're ready to jump in, but you've taken the opportunity away from them. So now they're waiting anxiously for the next deal to come along. Always borrow money before you need it. I cannot stress that enough. You never want to be in a situation where you are desperate for the money, because desperation comes through as inexperience. And when you're in a desperate situation, you're actually repelling investors as well. So what you want to do is you want to create your relationships, work with this group of 2 or 3 people, and keep nurturing them, keep working with them, and have a commitment from them to invest in an opportunity. And as soon as you have a commitment from them, you're always best to actually receive some money from them for the down payment, put it into a trust account with your lawyer so that it's safe and secure. Now you've got a real legitimate commitment from your investor. Now you can even go out and feel more confident when you're looking for investment opportunities. The moment you have that investment opportunity, you go running back to your investor, sit down with them, and walk through that deal from beginning to end, and make them feel comfortable and move forward with it based on that. All right, so that's what I've got for you in this particular lesson. Again, if you have any questions, by all means email them to kbeaton@arcarealestate.ca, or I look forward to talking with you on the live webinar that will be coming up soon. Take care and look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.